This is Moxie Comic Book. Let's talk comics. Specifically, an update to the Phoenix Comicon controversy surrounding Matt Solberg. So, yesterday he announced that he will be resigning from his position in the Blue Ribbon Army and will be holding public meetings over the volunteer controversy. So for those of you who are out of the loop, number one, you can check out my old videos because I was monitoring the situation, like bleedingcool.com and a few other main actual media outlets. Not that Bleeding Cool is not an actual media outlet, they are. But the gist of it is Phoenix Comicon decided that they were no longer going to take volunteers to work at their convention for free. They were going to require all volunteers moving forward to join this group called the Blue Ribbon Army, where they would be required to pay a minimum of a $20 annual fee. So that kind of rubbed a lot of people the wrong way when they first heard about it, because it was like, volunteer means you work for free, but if you're required to join this other group where you have to pay for it, well then aren't you paying for the privilege of working for free? Especially considering that Phoenix Comicon, which is put on by Square Egg Entertainment, is a for-profit venture, right? That Matt Solberg is the CEO of and board member of. So he's the board member of, or he's the director of, I should say, the Phoenix Comicon, and he was the CEO, or he is the CEO of Square Egg Entertainment. So this dude looks to stand, or he stands to gain a lot of money, right, off of this. This is like his job, so to speak, right? So the update is he sent out a letter and forwarded a copy of it to bleedingcool.com. And I encourage you to read it. It is a bit lengthy, so I'm just going to kind of highlight or kind of point out like a few areas. So number one, he starts off, and one of the first phrases that kind of caught my attention was he said, "We did not expect this level of reaction," right? So he was, I guess he was hoping that whatever controversy that people would pick up on, because I do believe that there was something shady going down. Okay, we'll get into that in just a second. But you can kind of tell by the way that this is phrased, he didn't think that people would think of it as a big deal. He thought that he would be able to get away with whatever it is he was getting away with. Now, once again, I'm just making allegations. I have no proof, I'm no lawyer, and I don't have any insider information. But as an outsider looking at the situation, a lot of it seemed suspicious. A lot of it seemed very suspicious. Okay? So this first phrase kind of jumped out at me, right? When he just kind of, in the very first paragraph, he says, look, we didn't expect this level of reaction. Okay? Like, he was blinded by this. He was blinded by something else. Okay? And if you move down, right, he basically starts to go on in the letter, and he kind of talks about it and says, look, clearly what we have here is a messaging issue. If people had heard what we were really thinking and what we were really concerned about, and if we had done a better job, he says, if we had done a better job of explaining what the situation was, people wouldn't be so upset. And he basically says, look, we had two options here, okay? They either go to all paid staff at Phoenix Comicon, and then he goes on to say, look, that would mean that we would have to get rid of the number of volunteers, okay? And we wanted people to participate. We wanted people to be able to volunteer. That's what he's saying. He's saying he wanted people to be a part of the con. He wanted people to be able to volunteer. Okay, so that's number one. Okay, and like if we started paying these people, it's financially impossible for us to do that, and we would have to force people out of their volunteer positions. And he's basically saying we couldn't do that to you, right? We wanted people to participate. Option number two, he says, was, well, then we would either partner up with a non-profit organization, which the Blue Ribbon Army, I guess, is, because they have, some kind of status or whatever, like some kind of legal status. By having members pay $20 annual fees and then volunteer through the Blue Ribbon Army, then Phoenix Comicon would legally be allowed to take on free labor. Okay, now the free labor would actually have to pay to work for free, which seems kind of odd, right? And he goes on to cite like a few precedences and says, look, in other industries that do conventions and in other Comic-Con conventions, there's been legal action or, the threat of legal action, and we were kind of freaked out by that. So he basically says, considering those two options, we decided to go with the one where we forced our people to pay to volunteer to filter through a nonprofit organization like the Blue Ribbon Army. Okay? Okay, so let's get into the reasons why I think everything here sounds fishy still. Okay, this sounds like a guy who is making an apology way too late and for all the wrong reasons. Okay, I think he's doing this not because he finally sees that his initial approach was wrong. He sees this, in my opinion, as something that hurts his bottom dollar. Okay, this is something that he's doing because he thinks that, okay, this is gonna hurt my profits. Now, if you check out any of my other videos about this, and I've only made like a couple, okay, I've only made a couple of these videos, okay, but if you check out any of these other videos, my position is this guy created a whole scheme where the convention and him by extension would make more money. Okay? Now, keep in mind, number one, Phoenix Comicon is raising ticket prices this year. Okay? So that's the first thing I want to point out. Okay? If you check out my other video, I had a screenshot of their Facebook page where they basically said that they are raising prices of admission this year. Okay? So that's a for-profit move right there. Okay? Then, at some point in this letter of his today, he goes on to say, many of you were concerned over my involvement as an equity and board member and any perceived conflicts of interest. So he says the phrase, perceived conflicts of interest. And then he goes on in the next sentence to basically say, therefore, effective immediately, I am resigning my position on the board of the Blue Ribbon Army and have begun the process of unwinding my equity position. So this guy had equity position in the Blue Ribbon Army. He's benefiting from the Blue Ribbon Army. That's not a perceived conflict of interest. It is a conflict of interest. As the CEO of Square Egg Entertainment, the company that puts on the for-profit comic convention that he is the director of, and making people join another separate organization, the Blue Ribbon Army, at $20 a pop annually minimum to work, which he is a board member of also. He was a board member of the Blue Ribbon Army also with an equity, quote-unquote, position, okay? This is totally a conflict of interest in my untrained eye, okay? Now, again, I'm no lawyer, right? If I'm wrong about this, please let me know in the comments below. But right there, okay, he's trying to deflect blame away from something that shows that he could have profited from this, right? And he basically goes on once again to reiterate. He basically says, look, I apologize because we got the messaging wrong. But did you? I mean, how did you get the messaging wrong, right? Because here is him in response to the controversy trying to explain why they're making the change, why they're making people pay to volunteer for them. He says, look, in 2016, we started to implement a headcount and we noticed that a bunch of people started joining up, right? Then he says, prior to the 2015 show, we started doing a headcount, and he basically says, look, we were supposed to have about 1,700 people volunteering for the show, but like 22,000 people or like 2,200 people showed up. So that's an increase. Like that's 500 extra people that were unaccounted for. Okay. Now, clearly, if people were volunteering for the con for the sole purpose of, like conning the con, right? Like so that they don't have to pay the badge fee and they just go in, they pretend to work, or they don't show up to their post and they just get to see the Comic-Con for free. Okay. Yeah. That's a scummy move, okay? But the convention also should share half the blame for that. if your organization doesn't have the ability to prevent people from coming into your establishment for free, that's partly on you. That's partly on the convention. That is partly on Matt Solberg. In fact, when you look at his other statements, he says one team had 54 staff members that collected their badges and benefits but didn't show up to do their job. They're free labor. And he's upset that they didn't show, they're not up to par. Now, again, I want to emphasize another point I made in another video, which is how does making volunteers pay make them better volunteers? Like that, there's no direct correlation between those two thinking, that those two thought processes there. But then he also says, I would ask directors what tasks certain teams conducted on site, and the managers would basically turn around and say multiple times, I don't know. So he's upset that he's taking on volunteers, he's giving them badges, they're showing up for free, and they're not doing like work. And it doesn't seem like they need to be doing work, right? I mean, he basically started off one of his defenses by saying, look, this past year, Phoenix Comicon hit record attendance. In the next paragraph, he says, Phoenix Comicon is a healthy, vibrant, and profitable show. And again, all of this doesn't smack. The way he talked about it before and the way he's talking about today, he's trying to make it seem like, look, we were facing a legal dilemma and we were worried about the quality of the Comic-Con that our attendees would experience. But a lot of it does seem like he was worried about not the quality of the Comic-Con for the attendees, but the fact that some of those attendees were there and didn't pay, right? And I think that's really what bothered him. And he concocted a scheme where he could still profit. Like he would get rid of that, he would close the loophole, right? I mean, he's basically, in the other letter I showed you from today, he's basically saying, look, we wanted as many people a chance to volunteer for our organization. But previously he said, look at all these people not doing anything, right? Just standing around, and they got in for free. That's what really bugs him, right? Not the fact that he would be shutting off people who wanted to volunteer for the right reasons, but that some bad eggs were getting into the show for free, right? So, all in all, though, it does seem like good news. Number one, Matt Solberg at least is starting to come around. It might be for all the wrong reasons, but it's a step in the right direction. He's given up his equity position in the Blue Ribbon Army, and he is holding public meetings that you have to RSVP to, but you can still go and ask questions and attend. And he does look like he is looking for a viable option. And I'm not, knocking the guy for trying to make a profitable Comic-Con. Anybody who does something like this deserves to get paid for their labor, okay? But it just seemed like he was concerned about how much money he would be making, his company, his Comic-Con, his volunteer organization that he was a part of, right? He doesn't really care about the 1,000+ people who offered free labor to his con, right? This wasn't a messaging issue. The message was on point. He showed why he was upset, and he made changes publicly to get more money, basically. Okay? So the messaging was right on, in my opinion. But anyway, it's good to hear that the Comic-Con in Phoenix is starting to find a resolution. And hopefully there won't be any more updates. Hopefully this all just kind of works out. But if there is, right, I'm pretty sure, I'll be around to offer my insights, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other comic book news outlets like Bleeding Cool has been right on top of this story. So, agree, disagree? Do you have your own theory? Do you have insider information? Do you know something I don't know, right? Leave a comment below. Maybe I got some of the facts wrong. leave a comment below for that as well. Or maybe you agree with everything I said. Maybe you do know Matt Solberg, and he does seem like a scummy dude. And everything I said is right. I don't know. Comment below, hit the like button, right, and subscribe and all. Once again, I'll remind you guys, though, that if you do subscribe and you are one of the first 100 subscribers to my channel, we start off with 0. Now we're at 3. If I ever get to 100 subscribers and you make your public channel, or you make your subscription public so I can actually see your name and everything like that, you have a chance of winning a free copy of Alan Moore's Watchmen. So I'm only opening it up to people with U.S. addresses just for shipping issues for right now. But yeah, I would really appreciate a subscribe or a subscription. I'm kind of nervous. I'm normally a shy person in real life, but I'm really excited to be part of the YouTube community, sharing my thoughts about comics and all that kind of stuff. Check out my other videos, and leave comments, subscribe, like I said, and hopefully you'll win a free copy. And I'll hold an accountability video so I can show you guys who won that comic and everything like that. So thanks, and check out my other videos. More coming up. Bye, guys.